We'll call the meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Council members Leach and Wilbur are absent. Approval of the agenda. Is there any changes to the agenda? Council. I just was going to add one thing under new business 9C, just to talk about reviewing our ATV and golf cart rules and maybe get them updated if need be. So if there's no other changes, do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that addition?
Motion to approve.
By Joe.
I'll second.
Second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3 in favor, none against. Approval of the minutes of the July 5th, 2023 regular meeting. Is there any changes, corrections? I have one right on for the adjournment. That's the meeting I wasn't at, but it says I adjourned the meeting, so I think that should be
Good job.
council member, yeah. Have that one changed. If there's no other changes, do I have a motion to approve the minutes with that change?
Motion to approve.
No
Motion by
second.
Joe, second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3 in favor, none against. This now brings us to our public open forum. Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Is there anyone here that would like to speak to the council? Our public open forum is now closed. We have no public hearings. We will now move on to reports and presentations. Police Department monthly report. Brian?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Activity report for June 2023, some of the numbers that we had for that month. We had 9 alarm calls. We had 31 citizen contacts. We had 10 dog complaints. We did 22 door checks. We had 54 foot patrols, includes the parks and campgrounds and areas like that. 5 fireworks complaints, 14 information calls, 20 medicals, found 9 open doors for businesses. We did 438 traffic stops. We had 8 accidents. We had 17 personal assists for people. 9 welfare checks we did. We had 18 suspicious activity calls, 8 juvenile problems calls, 9 verbal disputes. We had 38 assists for other agencies. We had 21 suspicious vehicle and person calls, 9 child custody issues. We gave out 37 speeding tickets, 13 seatbelt tickets. We gave out 24 no driver's license tickets. We had 18 citations for either driving with revoked or suspended license or canceled. We had 7 thefts for a total activity of 1,068 for the month. Compare that to May, we're up 242. And compare that to last year, we're up 266 activity. I think St. Clair Lewis days seem to go very well. I think it's probably the most people I've seen on the Saturday event, Friday and the Saturday, for a long time. So I think with the number of people we had in town and the enforcement seemed to keep everything pretty under control. So everything went really well, and the street dance seemed to go really well too, so. I didn't see any major issues, but probably the large volume of people that we really had in town this last weekend. So everything went pretty well.
Good. Got a question for you, Chief. You had 13 people with no seatbelts? How in the heck can you drive a car without a seatbelt? That little dinger keeps going off, driving me nuts.
Maybe they have a cheater.
You know,
Oh, I didn't know they had that.
Yeah.
Oh,
They don't care.
it can
okay,
be done.
thank you. Okay, I didn't know that. I learned something new. Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, thank you.
Public Works Monthly Report. Ben?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Good. Over the past month, we did get the fishing pier repaired. We did have some assistance from the DNR, so it took a couple days to get that ripped apart and replaced, but that is back in place and working good again. For Sinclair Lewis Days, the park was prepped along with sweeping the streets and placing all the necessary barricades. Splash pad, we haven't had any major issues there. It's been up and running every day. Just some minor parts and repairs having to be made as we go along the way there. Hickman Park, the playground and sand are installed. We did put a little gravel trail in off the road for now, possibly looking at paving that in the future. Tree trimming occurred throughout all the parks. We did have 2 storm sewers that we had to repair where a split occurred along the seam underground and kind of caused a sinkhole there, so we've got another one that we're looking at tomorrow. Cleaned out a storm sewer outlet on Hickman that had an excessive amount of dirt buildup that was kind of holding things back in the pipe. Installed some new street signs on the Hickman Drive area and the new industrial park. At the airport, we got the concrete driveway poured and all the black dirt and grass is seeded. Sidewalk repairs, those are going to begin after August 1st here by the contractors. And then 2 of the plow trucks had some radiator issues towards spring of this year, and we got both of those radiators replaced and went through those 2 vehicles, so those are ready, and as time allows, we'll go through the rest of the trucks before winter hits.
Okay.
Any questions I can answer?
Great job, Ben. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commission report.
City engineer, Chief. Isn't it city engineer? Oh, sorry. I was following this.
Move this thing. In your packet, you have a copy of the Planning Commission agenda from last week. We did have 1 public hearing for a variance, which is an action item later on your agenda. A copy of the building permit reports. In the month of June, we issued 19 permits with a total construction value of $1.6 million. A year ago, we issued 40 permits with a construction value of $826,000. And then you have the chart listing the building permits. And we also have the cleanup day and the household hazardous waste, which is informational item on the back of the packet.
Questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
City Engineer report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'll give you updates pretty much as it's listed here, I guess, south to north. South Industrial Park, that project is just about finished. There's a couple little minor things that still left to be done, but the wear course paving's all done, those kinds of things. A couple minor things on the lift station still has to be done. Striping, stop signs were done, so just pretty much complete with that project at this point in time. Second Street project, basically we're waiting till a little better into growing season so we can reseed out there. So that's on the plan to reseed areas out there. There was one sidewalk steps area that was missed that needs to get put in. So there is a little item on the concrete that needs to be done. And then the paving for the project, as we've talked about before. So that's what's left on that project at this point. And then Author's Edition, the pipe is all in the ground at this point in time. They're actually currently, as we speak, working on subgrades, starting on the road portion of the project. We'll see that happen, the curb go in, the gravel go in within the next 2 weeks. And then we're gonna probably see a pause at that point while we get small utilities come in, and we'll probably be looking at paving very end of August, first part of September to get that first lift of paving on that. With that, one of the things I wanted to bring up to the council for consideration is whether there's a desire to think about the intersection at Hickman, Half a Day, Hendricks, that intersection. Now, right now, as you know, Hickman kind of makes a big sweeping turn there. Hendricks went off. Well, now we're going to have traffic to the north. With the decision to put off that paving, it gives us a window of opportunity to consider whether we wish to redo that intersection, pull out some of the curb, and basically make it into a four-way type intersection, which is the way it's supposed to be from the planning, everything there. The right-of-way is there for Hickman if you're coming northbound to kind of come up and be able to turn and go that way. There will be some benefits of kind of slowing some of the traffic down going through there. We would have to consider whether we wanted to do a stop or not on which ways, if it's a four-way stop or two-way stop, but that's something probably in consultation with the police chief to decide what might be the best situation for that. But if the council wished to consider that, like I said, this would be an opportunity. I could come back with an estimate of what that might be to do that work. It's not a huge amount in the sense it's pulling out some curb, obviously redoing that curb, a little bit of pulling out some of the paving, patching that back in, and be ready for that wear course for the whole project after that. But just wanted to throw that out there for something for the council to consider if you wish to, if you want me to put together numbers for, say, the next meeting to decide if you wish to go forward, I'd be happy to do so. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Comments?
Good idea.
I think if we develop that as fast as we want to, we're going to have increased traffic,
Yeah.
and to bring them in from basically three different directions or two different directions into Hickman, it only makes sense to square it off and make that
Absolutely.
a four-way stop.
Absolutely.
But I'm in favor of looking at the numbers and see what we can do.
So am I.
So, Joe?
I don't know, that it just directly affects me.
No. Well,
I guess it doesn't hurt to look at.
you drive it. That's the
but-
only way it's going to affect you at that point in time, so. And it'd be all city costs because basically we got the right of way and everything, so we don't have to do assessments
There'd be no
or
assessments for it. It'd just be
or
redoing
changes,
the
you know, so.
intersection, yeah. The right-of-way does kind of provide for it, the right-of-way that's there. It just happened to be, there's that sweeping curve
Yep.
on the, I guess it'd be the southeast quadrant, and that's in the right-of-way, but it's also going straight as if it should be a square intersection.
Yep.
Right.
At some
Makes it
point in the
safer
future.
for
We thought that
everybody.
eventually we'd do this, but didn't think we had the time to be able to redo it at this point in time.
Right.
But now we do have a window where we could consider it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, I think we got general consensus. We'll look at the numbers. You want to put
Okay.
them together?
I'll bring that back to you at the next council meeting.
Thank
Okay.
you, Keith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Airport Board?
So the airport board met in regular session on July 12th. We're still waiting on some software to finalize the fueling system, the grant, the new pump work that's been done out there. We did review potential 2024 project with the FAA funding. There's a possibility of a box hangar perhaps going in there with the FAA funding and the money we have on hand. They also discussed repainting of the compass rose. You know that when we did the seal coating project, of course, that got covered up. We did look at reviewed the land acquisition project, not quite certain how we'll proceed yet because the seller did not sign the purchase agreement. We confirmed that 197-foot tall stack for a potential biogas facility will not impact the airport zone. And we are looking for a member to fill the board board vacancy. So if you're aware of anybody with an interest in airports, that we're looking for someone for that board. We have no action for you tonight.
Questions? Okay, we'll move on to action items. 7A, approve resolution 2023-44 granting the variance.
The Planning Commission, acting as the Board of Adjustment, conducted a public hearing on Tuesday, July 11th, to consider the request for a variance on property located at 612 8th Street South, legally described as part of Block 19 Robinson Mendenhalls and owned by Scott C. and Terrell R. Pearson. The request is for a variance from the road right-of-way setback requirement of 30 feet. The request is for a setback of 21.4 feet to allow the construction of a garage addition. The board, after the public hearing, recommends that the request be approved. I do have a snippet of the survey in your packet indicating where the garage will be impacting the setback. As you can see, the house isn't quite square with the road, so the further to the west, or the further to the east you go, the closer to the road it gets. And so that is where they're requesting the variance of 21.4 feet from the road. And this is Resolution 2023-44, granting the variance request.
Any questions, concerns?
Well, he lives across the street from me, and that garage is way too small, Scott. This should have been done a long time ago. I'm all for it.
Okay. You got any questions?
No.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Resolution 2023-44?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3 in favor, none against. 7B, approve release of agreement and easement for the dam construction.
So when the city reconstructed the dam over the Sauk River on Main Street in 1992, we obtained an easement and agreement that from the owner of the Old Mill Apartments at the time. It also included the adjacent fourplex and then the adjacent garage beyond that. The agreement was to allow the contractor and the city access to the back of the property for construction purposes and also use of a portion of the property directly behind the old mill for the dam itself. Following completion of construction, we were to release the property from the encumbrance with the exception that the easement was to be confined to the area actually needed for ongoing use and maintenance. That action appears not to have occurred. We don't find any record that it occurred, and there's nothing recorded at the county. So with the current prospect of a sale of the fourplex, the release is requested to provide clear title. We have an attached document that releases all the property with the exception of the lot the old mill is on itself. That's the first 124 feet adjacent to Main Street. We would like to keep that encumbered until a future date where we can really define what the area that we need is, which will of course involve probably some survey work to determine exactly what that legal description will look like. So what we have in front of you is to execute the release of the easement and agreement for the property that was encumbered by the easement, with the exception of the 124 feet closest to Main Street that the old mill that sits on itself. So what we're looking to is to authorize the execution of the release of easement and agreement.
Questions, comments? Do I have a motion to authorize the execution?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Diane. Do I have a second?
I get second.
Joe will second it. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3 in favor, none against. 7C, approve pay request number 3, authors edition.
So this is pay request 3. This is the payment to Keekly Underground Incorporated for the 2023 Authors Edition project. This had the total contract amount of $1.334 million. $644,000 has now been completed to date. We had previously paid $374,161. After we retain 5%, that leaves an amount due of this request of $237,684.77.
Questions, concerns? Do I have a motion to approve the pay request number 3?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Joe,
I'll second.
second by Diane. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3 in favor, none against. Unfinished business, authors edition lot sales.
Just a little update. I've had quite a bit of interest in the Authors Edition. I'm working with 6 different parties on potential purchases of lots out there. Plus, we also had a request from somebody to continue the road and develop for some twin homes. So there's quite a bit of activity. We're trying to keep people from going out there when the construction is going on, although I do know people have walked up in there and taken a look. So we would expect probably to see some actual activity on paper very soon. And that'll have to come back to the city council, of course, for approval. So that's what's happening on that.
Any comments to that? Okay, then we'll move on to new business, Teamsters Local 320 Union Negotiations Request.
So we have received the official request from BMS that the Teamsters Local 320 is opening union negotiations for the 2024, 5, and 6 contract years for the Public Works Union.
Okay,
And there's no action at this point. I've responded to them and asked them to send us their proposal. I believe they are going to want to come to Sauk Center and present it in person so that they can explain any issues or any of the items that they have. So that'll involve the Personnel Committee, I'm sure, at that time.
okay. Then you got 2024 budget.
It's that time of the year. The department heads will have their proposed budget worksheets for them by the end of the week. So then we'll want to be setting, when we have the workshop meeting, probably toward the 3rd week of August, maybe toward the end of August. There's 5 Wednesdays in August, I believe, this year. It might be an opportunity to use that 5th Wednesday for the budget meeting, but we'll talk about that when we have the full council, when we can set that meeting date. That'll give time the department heads to get their budget back. I can get it together and turn it around to the Finance Committee. And somewhere in between there, we'll have to talk about the capital projects and the CIPs. So just wanted to get started on it a little bit early here so we're not rushed in the end.
Okay. Any questions about that? Otherwise, next one is 9C, golf carts and ATV reviewing the policy or seeing how we're gonna start enforcing what we have on books. So of course, Sinclair Lewis made it look really bad those days, but you're getting to see more and more golf carts driving down the sidewalks in the parks and ATVs, were a couple of them do the same thing. And I'm personally brought this to attention. I think we actually just make it with no golf carts or ATVs in our parks. Because when people have to move out of the way because they come by and say, excuse me, it's,
Amen to that.
someone's gonna get hurt if we don't review this policy and get it started, so, I don't know if operations is a committee that needs to, or someone else wants to jump,
Or policy.
or policy can take a look at it. But I know we got a lot of rules and regs on the books, but, they're going down Main Street, they're driving down Sinclair Lewis Avenue.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, we just got to start cracking down on it. If there's a ticket involved, there's a ticket involved, because a lot of them have got young kids on them.
Yep.
And I just think it's time to review it and go from there. So,
If they ever get hit by a car, there's going to be fatalities, so, yeah.
okay. Then any other comments on that? Otherwise, that brings us to our consent agenda. We got schedule of claims, $621,262.11 for a total of the same. And we have June checks, paid claims payroll of $626,603.89. We have a request from Missy Terrace, doing business as Mustang Bar 3 Incorporated, for a temporary extension of premise permits for anniversary and band on September 9th, 2023 in the back parking lot. That's Meads Building and the old Main Street Drug Building from 9 PM to 12:30 AM. Is there any questions about the consent calendar? Hearing nothing, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Diane,
I'll second.
second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3 in favor, none against. Informational items.
A few items of information. We did get our state demographer population update. As of April 1st, 2022, they're estimating our population of 4,660. Item B, we have the Household Hazardous Waste Pickup Day and the Citywide Scrap Metal Recycling Day, both at the Civic Arena on August 2nd from 10 to 2. So there'll be 2 sections set off, one for each of those. And then you have your Spectrum channel lineup changes in your packet to review.
Questions? If not, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Diane,
I'll second.
second by Joe. Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3 in favor, none against. Meeting adjourned.